Hello and welcome to Global News Factory. I'm your host, Vikrant. The date says October 2nd, the world's day of Mahatma Gandhi and non-violence. And yet, here we are talking about the loudest drumbeat for war in years. Reports say Washington has greenlit strikes deep inside Russia and will feed Kiev the intelligence to make those hits count. And the shocker inside the shocker? Trump has authorized long-range missile strikes on top defense officials in Moscow itself, the Russian capital. So on the day we're supposed to hold our fire, the West is loading new magazines. This is the harsh truth. We are told this is the first big policy shift since Trump hardened his tone on Russia. So intelligence sharing is no longer about eyes on the front line. The plan as sold in DC extends to refineries, pipelines, power plants, the stuff that keeps a country breathing and earning. Let's read this report by the Economic Times on your screen. I'm quoting, "This shift signals a strategic intention to pressure Moscow beyond the front lines by crippling economic lifelines and threatening the Kremlin's command centers, bringing Putin and his top leadership within striking distance." That is the main part. And yes, that means what you think it means. Targeting top government and military officials themselves in Moscow. Not just battlefield generals, but the core. Now, if you remember, the model is not new. We saw a version of this in Iran strikes, a slow guillotine of senior commanders, even whispers about the top office not being safe. We heard reports that how Israel was planning to assassinate Iran's supreme commander, supreme leader himself. That template is now being dragged to a nuclear superpower.
To ensure peace, we must prepare for war. From this moment forward, the only mission of the newly restored Department of War is this: warfighting.
First, the Tomahawks to Ukraine, and then the targeting data for long-range hits, and no sanctuaries, as the Hawks like to say it.
Reading what he has said and reading what Vice President Vance has said, as well as Secretary Rubio, the answer is yes. Use the ability to hit deep. There are no such things as sanctuaries. That's one of the reasons I believe that this last week, and it has been confirmed, that President Zelensky asked President Trump to get Tomahawk missiles, which give you a depth. They're really good systems. America makes the best systems in the world.
Bold words in a studio, very reckless words in a nuclear world. There is also a wider push. G7 finance chiefs vowed to squeeze anyone buying more Russian oil or helping bypass sanctions, which is a polite way of barking at India and China. Good luck with that. The US already imposed 50% tariffs on India. If that was the grand slam, the bat is cracked. You cannot sanction half the planet into submission and expect the shelves to stay full and the prices to stay calm. But that is the doctrine. If force does not work, use more force and call it values. That is their doctrine. Now, what does all this mean in practice? It means the West is moving from help Ukraine fight to help Ukraine strike Russia at its heart. It means the line between sponsor and participant is getting erased. It means that when a long-range missile punches a hole near a command bunker in Moscow, Russia won't be asking whether the launcher said Ukraine on the side. It will be asking who planned the route and who gave the fire order. If American fingerprints are anywhere in that chain, Moscow will treat it as American. That is not me being dramatic. That is how big powers think when the map turns red. Russia has said it out loud for years. If the state's existence is threatened, response will be total, not sharp, not proportionate, total. Now, you can dislike that doctrine, but you cannot pretend it does not exist. Dmitry Medvedev put the reminder on the table this week. He said, one misstep and you are climbing the ladder to weapons of mass destruction. He is not auditioning for a novel, he is reading from the manual. If you want a quick map of what goes wrong next, here it is. Russia won't just bark, it will bite where it hurts and where it is deniable. Imagine that. Energy infrastructure in Europe starts to have accidents. Undersea cables and pipelines experience anomalies. Satellites blink, GPS drifts, ports stall, insurance prices go vertical, markets dump risk, oil spikes, wheat spikes, power grids wobble. And no, this is not 1999. Russia is not a broken economy with one pipeline and a sad army. It's an industrial war machine that has adapted under fire, expanded output, hardened its air defenses, and learned to fight under sanction fog. You don't teach a lesson to that kind of opponent with one set of long-range toys and a motivational speech. The saddest part is the timing. On Gandhi's day, the West could have said, okay, enough trench arithmetic, enough fantasy goals, let's draw the red lines we won't cross. Instead, we get the opposite. What happens to America in this picture? American cities, American people. Every city becomes a bet. Every base becomes a target. Every cable, port, and grid gets exposed. And all for what? Another season of Ukraine can retake all its land? When even Kyiv's own commanders have admitted the battlefield is moving the other way. This is gambling with matches in a fireworks factory. There is still a way to step back, freeze the deep strike talk, put the Tomahawks back in the box, keep intelligence tied to frontline defense, draw a hard ban on targeting top officials, either side, reopen hotlines. It would not earn applause on cable news, but it might keep the lights on and the sirens off. Today, the truth is harsh. On a day meant for peace, the West chose provocation. The script being sold as pressure is actually a blueprint for disaster. If leaders keep walking this path, don't act surprised when the next headline is not about sanctions or statements. It is about a mistake and explosion. Moving on, grab the popcorn now because Europe's two loudest bosses are swinging wrecking balls at each other. On one side, you have German Chancellor Friedrich Merz polling in the basement but swinging for the fences. On the other, Brussels' motivational speaker-in-chief, Ursula von der Leyen. The price they both want is simple: more control. Merz is done pretending Brussels is a friendly helper. He is telling business leaders Germany needs more say over policies that hit member states directly. He has torpedoed Ursula's fresh EU taxes, trashed her peacekeeper fantasy for Ukraine, and fought her on a tariff pact with the US. And also on climate rules that read like a manual for closing factories. His line to CEOs was blunt enough to sting. He said, I'm quoting, "We must now put a stick in the wheels of this machine in Brussels." Translation, stop the EU before it regulates again. How come Berlin developed a spine? Because Merz can read a poll. His approval rating is sliding. 2/3 of Germany are fed up, and his coalition partners are not exactly lighting up the scoreboard. Meanwhile, AfD party keeps lapping the field, outpacing the ruling setup, while every press conference in Berlin sounds like a weather report in a storm. Merz knows if he hugs Brussels now, he hugs an anvil. Ursula, of course, wants the opposite. More EU taxes, more control, more central schemes, more grand plans to send peacekeepers into a live war zone. the EU cannot even afford. And when anyone says, hold on, she calls it short-sighted, un-European. Pick your label of the day. It is the same movie every year. Brussels dreams big, industry groans, voters pay. Here is the funny part, and by funny I mean shameless. When Hungary's Viktor Orban says, we want to get rid of EU overreach, he is branded as extremist, a stooge, a villain. But when Germany's Chancellor says that we want independence from EU, suddenly it is a thoughtful debate on sovereignty. One rule for the favorites, another rule for the stubborn neighbors. On the merits, I will back Merz on this round. He is elected, he is actually answerable to people, to voters, and he is the one who will face the music if bills spike and jobs run. Ursula does not face a ballot, she faces microphones. The EU has become a bureaucracy that regulates first and thinks later. It talks big on security, energy, and industry, and then sends the bill to same families who cannot take another hit. If this is the union, what is the union for? At some point, you admit the obvious, a structure that cannot handle wars, cannot keep energy affordable, and cannot stop lecturing its own members, it has outlived its usefulness. Disband the Grand Theatre and give back power to capitals. Let Paris, Berlin, Budapest, Rome, and the rest be accountable to their own people without Brussels playing hall monitor. If Ursula wants to run a country, she can run for one. Until then, let elected leaders lead. Let voters judge them, and let the EU bureaucracy retire from the wrecking ball business. Europe does not need more motivational speeches, it needs control back where democracy still lives, in the nation, with the ballot, not the badge. And that is all for now. Thank you very much for being with me. You're watching GNF.